Hi, welcome to the LGBTQ review with me, James, and this is Beth. We review LGBTQIA plus content, and this week we are looking at My Beautiful Laundrette.
The beginning of a business empire.
Nothing but a toilet and a youth club. Constant boil on my bum.
How's your foot then? Is it all good?
Work now till you go back to college. I'm fixing you up with a job with your uncle.
Like me friends. Bring us in. I will.
Only you have to know how to squeeze the tits of the sister. Okay. I'll charge you basic rent. Above that, you keep.
Competence and strength of body and mind to look after it for me.
A partnership of young entrepreneurs.
My Beautiful Laundrette is the 1985 British film written by Hanif Kureishi and directed by Stephen Frears. I really liked this film when I was a teenager, and one of my favourite books is The Buddha in Suburbia by Hanif Kureishi.
Oh,
It
wow.
makes sense because they're very similar. The film and the book are very similar, and it's like a bit gay. Zadie Smith does a quote on the new edition. There was one copy going around our school like contraband. I read it in one sitting. I'd never read a book about anyone remotely like me before. There's loads of sex in it, and that's why teenagers like it. It was great. He's great.
Can you imagine a book going around our school like contraband? Like, I can't imagine it at GCC.
I can't imagine people reading at our school. I didn't. Do you know anyone that read? Like, Harry Potter was the height of reading, I think. Stephen Frears also directed Walter, which was the film that was shown on Channel 4 on its opening, would we call it that? Probably not. On its debut night.
I didn't realise how much of the director's work I had seen, like The Queen and High Fidelity, which seemed like an odd one out of all these ones. Yeah, so this film was initially made for Channel 4, but then it had such good reactions that they released it in the cinema.
Just like Beautiful Thing, also made for Channel 4, but was so critically acclaimed that they gave it a cinema release. That we're talking about Daniel Day-Lewis. He was going in to see Stephen Frears about a different project. Did you read about this?
No.
And he turned up speaking in a South London accent, and Stephen Frears was like, "Why are you talking like that? You're the son of the poet laureate." And he was like, "I went to a comprehensive, so I've adopted it in rebellion." And then he left, and he wrote Stephen Frears a letter that said if he didn't cast him in this, he was going to kill him. Right, now imagine if a person of colour or a woman did that.
Oh my God.
Like,
Wow.
yeah, it's sexy when he licks his face.
I mean, like, just from that story, if he didn't go on to do anything else, he would be considered like a psychopath, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he
Well,
is.
you say that, but like, what's Jared Leto? He's definitely a... nobody would... I don't understand how these men are allowed to act like this.
Includes in the question.
Yeah, I know.
So anyway, yeah, it's about Omar, who had a friend at school, Johnny. Something happens where they are no longer friends. They go their separate ways. He's taking care of his dad. His mum died. They say, chucked herself on the train line.
There's a train, hold on a minute. This is also a theme in the film because they live right next to the train line.
South London, Battersea, by the train tracks. Dad says he's like a layabout and is not doing anything, and gets him work with his uncle, who owns a car dealership, and his dad kind of alludes to it being like a dodgy business. His other uncle is selling drugs or just taking a lot of drugs. It's all very Thatcherite business, power suits. They're driving home one night and a bunch of like racist punks surround their car. Omar recognizes one of them being Johnny, who he knew as a kid. He goes up to him and they like rekindle their relationship that they had when they were kids. Omar gets the keys to a laundrette and invites Johnny to be a part of that as a caretaker, and they open up this laundrette and start a small business. Is there more?
When they fell out, it was because Johnny is a fascist, which I feel like is quite an important part of the thing. Also, wild to have to break up with someone for being a fascist. I bet people are still doing that now.
The film treats some fascists like they're fascists, and then treats him very like sympathetically. Like, do you see him do anything? Like, it's all kind of alluded to him having done it. A big part of it seems to be being 80s Britain. It's like Thatcherism, and the family's kind of adoption of that ideology and that whole like ruthless business mind that they have. They're like either have like become a middle class family, or you could say are just a middle class family, but there's like that distinction between them, very middle class, and then Johnny, he's like working class white guy.
Frears said that he felt like the economic elements of the film were bigger than the homosexual elements, and I think that comes across in watching the film. And apparently this was one of the first times that jokes about Thatcher had been in films.
Yeah, so to, I don't know, give some context, I guess like a lot of the films being made that would be considered like British cinema or like heritage films, which is like something we continue to do today. So having more like social realism was like a big thing in the 80s, especially from like Channel 4.
There's a great essay by Sukhdev Sandhu, wrote for the British Library, and he described the film as a radical departure from previous representations of British Asians in mainstream culture.
The guy who plays Omar is in lots of British TV. I remember seeing him in The Bill a bit, but he's been in lots of stuff.
What did you think about the guy that plays Omar's acting?
Good question.
I'm really glad that I watched this film when I was a teenager and I loved it so much. It was one of my favourite films for a really long time. Had I just seen it now, age 29, I don't think it would be, which is sad. But I guess I was looking for films that were like this, I suppose.
I thought all the acting was kind of odd.
I think they must have been directed to act like that. It's just so weird. Like, 1 minute he'll be completely serious, and then in the same sentence he'll, like, make a joke.
Yeah, it's strange. It's so like jarring, I would say. Like the actors weren't sure of what had come before or after that scene.
Yeah.
So they give this kind of like very specific reading when they do that scene, and then they might just be telling a joke next. The weird scene I thought was when he has the fake beard. Is this like funny, or is it supposed to be like scary? Or it's just really weird. Like it's all the different moods you could have in this one scene.
I think it must be trying to reflect a teenage experience. I don't know. Because otherwise it makes him look insane. Also because he looks like a 25-year-old man.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't know that they're supposed to be so young, he just seems unhinged.
A lot of the films like that, where it's just like 3 different things happening at once.
I'd really like to see a stage adaptation. I specifically want to see the one with the new music from the Pet Shop Boys. I think, yeah, that's the only way this could get better for me. It was nominated for Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars, but it lost to Woody Allen's Hannah and Her Sisters. Gross. Shirley Ann Field, who played Rachel, demanded that Hanif Kureishi rewrite her character, saying that if she has to strip down, she wants it to actually be a properly written character, which is great. So good. Because all the women in it are terrible. They're like rubbish. And it's such a male writer thing to do, to have all the women loving him. But there's not a woman that doesn't love him in this film. They just randomly love him.
Yeah.
And kiss him all the time. The only person that comes out well is Johnny, I think. And he was a fascist.
Yeah, it's interesting that they do give a lot of time to at least explain or give some depth to like the working class, like white people in the film. It's amazing that 30 years ago they actually had some sort of conversation about it, or at least like some exploration of why this happens and why, like, in a vacuum of poverty and nothing to do, why white kids would turn to fascism.
There are other things that have done that though, and like people just don't like it.
Being like working class, you don't usually see any dimensions to working class characters who aren't main characters. So that's interesting and unusual to see, which is bizarre because that seems like such a staple of, if you had to like kind of like stereotype British cinema, especially in the 80s and 90s, you would say like, oh, class is such a big thing, and yet it's so rarely done well.
Only Southern, but I suppose they're in London, so that probably doesn't count.
I just do think it's very, very good. It's a bit of a long watch, I think. I find like all like social realism films a long watch because it's not, I don't know, there's such a contrast between that and like fast cuts and music and everything else.
I will rate it 4.4 80s walls ice cream signs.
I'll rate it 4.5 thick on greybeards. He went to such effort as well because there was glue left on his face and stuff. Like, you got to buy specific glue to do that. That's what we thought. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you choose to.
You can follow us at LGBTQ_review on Twitter.